Hello and welcome to ayearofhitchcockmovies.com. We are your hosts, Jeff and Diane, and this is movie number 29, Rope, from 1948. And hey, this is our first movie in color. It took 28 movies to get here, but here we are. The Selznick regime is over, and this is the first film we'll see with James Stewart, first of 4 films that Alfred Hitchcock will do with James Stewart. This is movie number 1, What a Night. So pretty much during the production of The Parodying Case, Alfred Hitchcock was planning his next project, and he was planning his own production company. He'd actually been planning his own production company for years, waiting for his 7-year contract with David O. Selznick to end. And basically he was in a position now to formulate this production company with a long-term friend named Sidney Bernstein, and they called their production company Transatlantic Pictures. The reason they called it that is because Sidney Bernstein was also from England. They planned on making films in Hollywood and London. And like I said, he'd been friends with Sidney Bernstein for years. Sidney Bernstein is a hell of a guy. He actually ends up forming Granada Television. If you've ever watched Coronation Street, it's because of Sidney Bernstein that he formed this television company, basically broadcasting from Manchester with a focus on all things Northern England, Liverpool, Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds, that sort of thing. It was the first TV station to televise the Beatles to a United Kingdom audience in 1962. And like I said, the most famous show on was Coronation Street from Granada Television, the North being the arrow on Granada Television. Some of you might remember that. He filmed Granada Television in 1954, but in 1948 he filmed Transatlantic Pictures with Alfred Hitchcock. And the first project that he and Hitchcock wanted to do was Under Capricorn, which will turn out to be next week's movie. But they had to wait because they really wanted to have Ingrid Bergman star in it, and she wasn't ready yet. She was doing a film. So in the meantime, they decided to do tonight's film, Rope, based on a British play from 1929, written by Patrick Hamilton. Patrick Hamilton wrote that play, wrote a bunch of other plays, but particularly he wrote the play Gaslight. In 1938. Ingrid Bergman also stars in that movie, 1944, a few years before. And before Hitchcock does tonight's movie, Rope was actually made into a made-for-TV film in 1939 called Rope. And that particular made-for-television movie used very long takes in that program. And we remember some of the long takes we were seeing in last week's movie, The Parodying Case, where some of the court scenes were, 5, 6, 7 minutes of continuing footage. Well, this really fascinated Alfred Hitchcock. He was very interested in these long, unripped takes, and well, this is the mothership of that tonight. He really wanted this whole movie to sort of occur in real time, and if he could have, he would have said roll 'em and had the whole thing probably go. The movie's about 80 minutes long. He would have done that because tonight's movie is in color, particularly Technicolor, and we'll talk about that in a second. He was limited to slightly less than 10-minute takes because each reel, these huge reels of color film, could only go about 10 minutes and then you ran out of film. So yeah, I mean, he films this movie and it's edited together to look like one long continuous take in real time, and the way he edits together is kind of ingenious, and you'll notice it right away. In fact, you can go on Wikipedia under the production part of tonight's movie in Wikipedia. Someone has written them all out, all the different takes. The first one ends at 9 minutes and 38 seconds, and but it's real obvious. You can see where he's getting to the end of the reel and he's at 8, 9 minutes all in a row, and he'll focus in on someone's jacket, or he'll focus in on the back of a chair. Cut, change the film real quick, and then focus out of the chair and keep the action going. So it's very interesting. Yeah, very interesting, and we'll see how that turns out. I mentioned Technicolor for a second, and we're making a big deal about tonight being our first color film. Technicolor was not new in 1948. It was invented in 1916. There are a million movies already that were filmed in Technicolor at this point. In fact, it was the most used color system because there were different color systems. Most used color system from 1922 to 1952. They were mostly used for films like musicals, like The Wizard of Oz in 1939. Big costume dramas. An example of that is The Adventures of Robin Hood from 1938 with Errol Flynn, and man, is that a color movie. And cartoons, so like Snow White in 1937, that was in color. And you know, not every theater could play color movies, and what have you, and certainly Alfred Hitchcock waited until this time to do it. So, okay, so we got this play written by Patrick Hamilton. Hitchcock brought in his friend Hume Cronyn, and we know Hume because he was a smaller part in Shadow of a Doubt. He was the neighbor that comes in and talks about the best way to murder somebody, and he was also fairly prominent in Lifeboat. Well, Hume Cronyn was brought in to basically write the dialogue and work on the script. Hitchcock also brought in a playwright named Arthur Lawrence, best known for writing the script of the musical West Side Story. And ultimately they brought in Ben Hecht to tighten up the ending. What movie recently hasn't Ben Hecht been brought in to tighten up the ending? But anyways, those three guys are on the case. And who's in this thing? Well, Hitchcock wanted Cary Grant, but he was unavailable. He was RKO, still hogging Cary Grant. But he ended up getting James Stewart, and James Stewart was a huge star at this point. It was a big deal, very happy with him, and obviously you can tell because he used him in 3 other movies. Rear Window, The Man Who Knew Too Much, the remake, and Vertigo. Those are all to come, of course. Farley Granger is in this one. We'll see Farley Granger again in the classic Strangers on a Train. Those are the 2 films he's best known for. Farley Granger, he plays the younger of the two young men in this tonight's movie. He actually died earlier this year, the year we're doing this blog, 2011. He died in March of 2011. And lastly, John Dahl is in this one. He plays the other sort of young man in this movie, and he's best known for Rope. This is it. So what's it about? Well, the 2 young men I just mentioned, Farley Granger's character and John Dahl's character, they're wealthy Manhattanites, fresh out of Yale or something, Harvard, and they've got some pretty funny ideas. They want to kill somebody just for kicks and see if they can get away with it. And I don't want to spoil too much, but ultimately James Stewart is playing a professor that they knew in prep school, I think, not at college, but whatever. And they throw a big party. The whole thing is set in their apartment that they must be sharing. We'll talk about that in a second. And now, so a word about the long takes. Well, the whole thing is set in this apartment, and it goes back and forth between the main room, and you can see the Manhattan skyline in the background, and in this the dining room and sort of the kitchen a little bit. Well, in order to do these long continuous takes, the huge Technicolor cameras had to be on tracks. They had to move walls, they had to move furniture, they had to do it silently because you could hear it. I mean, this was an enormous undertaking, and you know, it's neat that Alfred Hitchcock's first production that they would take something like this on. It had never been done before, and I'm pretty sure it's not been done since, although we'll see a little bit of that next week's movie Under Capricorn. But boy, and, you know, what a lot of work, because with continuous takes, none of these actors were used to this. If you flub your line 6 minutes in, boom, cut, you've got to start all the way again. And most films, even at this stage, or 10 years earlier to 20 years earlier, you'd film moments, 20-second dialogue, 15 dialogues, and it was all 15-second dialogue bits, and it would all be spliced together. Well, not tonight's movie. And you know, I mentioned it being an apartment. This is one of those 4 limited setting Hitchcock movies. We saw how well that worked out in Lifeboat. We'll see how well it works out tonight in Rope, and we've got Dial M for Murder to look forward to, and Rear Window to look forward to, these 4 limited setting Hitchcock movies. So very, very interesting, and to me it just sounds like a lot of work. I also wanted to say a word about the skyline in this set. This was a very expensive set because of all the tracks and the film, the camera and the walls and everything moving. Watch the skyline, because the sun is setting and you can see the lights are changing and the buildings look different, and it really was a big deal, this set in the background, so check that out as well. There's a cameo to look for, maybe 2. I'm going to mention them just at the end of this video here, so if you don't want to know, I'll tell you when to shut off this video. And as a bonus, just on our website, just underneath this video, I'm gonna have a link to the trailer for this movie, because it has some footage that isn't in the film. It shows the murder victim talking to his fiancée, who's in the film. He's barely in the film, she's in the film. And it's got James Stewart talking to you. I'm not sure if he's in character, but he's talking to you about tonight's movie. It's kind of how they did trailers back in the good old days. So we'll link that. We'll link that up. So good. So here we go. So James Stewart, color, and Alfred Hitchcock as his own producer for the first time in his career. I'm excited. Let's watch. And now, so for those who do want to know, we'll tell you that. So right at the beginning, there's someone walking outside the apartment we see down, because like I said, the whole film is set in this apartment. And then at about, where are we? At about 55 minutes into this film, there's it's a very subtle cameo, because how could he be, it's like Lifeboat, how could he be on the lifeboat? And so he's not really in it, but in the background you can see here through this window, there's a neon sign, that's the profile of an Alfred Hitchcock, and underneath it, it's like a neon sign in the New York skyline. And it's the profile of Alfred Hitchcock, and it says Reduso underneath it, which was that same cameo, you know, how to become slim that we saw in Lifeboat. So good. So enjoy the film, and let's watch it. We'll see you at the end of the film.